This is my latest free pattern on the Lucy Kate Crochet website. It is an amigurumi Pekingese dog. Today I'm just going to quickly chat through to you how I came up with this pattern, what I did to produce it, and how I gave it the most insane hair of any crochet project that I have ever designed. I'm really excited about this one. It's been a lot of fun over the last couple of days and I can't wait to hear what you think. Let me know in the comments. Let's dive into how this one, it's an unusual one for me, came about. So this is a funny little project that that came up basically in conversation. I gave a friend some crocheted flowers for her birthday, and there was someone else at the party, and they asked about what else I made, and I showed them a few photos, and they asked whether I knew anyone who made or sold crochet Pekingese. And I was a little bit reluctant to make a Pekingese because soapbox. They are what is known as brachycephalic, which means that they have got squished, completely flattened in some cases, faces. And having a really flat face when you're a dog causes all kinds of problems with your breathing and your temperature regulation. And it's basically not a great thing, right? But the Pekingese that I was making was for somebody whose friend goes for Pekingeses that have a little bit of a muzzle. So I've given him a little bit of a nose. It's not the size of a nose that a dog would want, right, for breathing, but it strikes a good balance between still giving notes of the breed and not endorsing medical issues in dogs. So the challenge for this one was twofold. One was getting that face to look like the face of a Pekingese without making it look like the mangled face of a Pekingese, and the other one was the hair. Now, I don't know how familiar you are. I don't know how familiar you are with the Pekingese as a breed, but it's long-haired and it's got masses, oodles and oodles of hair, especially on the tail and the ears, but all over the body too. And when you're crocheting, sometimes you have to, and you know, if you've seen my other videos, you'll see this. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You have to make a bit of a caricature, even if you're going for realism. For this one, what I decided to do in order to give across that slightly, you know, intense hair situation, but without just turning the toy into looking like a puddle and a mess, frankly, is that I just accentuated it on the tail and the ears. The markings of the particular dog that I was trying to emulate is sort of a black and tan, and the black parts of the fur continue to the ears and the extremities in a lot of dog breeds. So what I did was I kept the crocheted base for the ears as just the brown yarn, and I put the yellow for the long fur on top. So that gives that impression of those two colours that I think is quite akin to what you see on the actual dog. It's got super huge eyes. Bulging eyes, another bad thing in dogs, but still super huge eyes. And they're set really close to this nose. And what I did after I made the nose was I just used a tiny couple of stitches around here to pull those rounds in closer to give it that more snubbed effect. Covering my own face with a dog. The tail is this little stubbed tail under here with just masses of fur. For creating long fur, and this is a technique you can use for making doll's hair as well with crochet. There are several ways of doing it, and I stuck with this one because it makes this more sort of flattened fur effect. And now the downside of what I did here is that it's not particularly play safe. This is a decorative crochet toy that is going to be gifted a woman who is turning 80 years old. She's probably not going to be chewing it and tugging at its fur, you know, sensible grown-up lady, like the rest of us sensible grown-up ladies. I don't have to worry about that with this. If I was making this for a child who would play with it, for example, if I was going to give it to one of my own kids, who are very unimpressed that I'm not going to give it to them, I would do the same method and then something else afterwards. So let me quickly explain. I get a yarn needle, quite a fine one for this, and I thread a long section of the same colour yarn onto the needle, and then I pull it through so that it's like a big loop like this with the needle at the end. and then I sew in and out. And as it makes loops in the fur, I stick my finger into those loops and I shove it. Have you ever done broomstick crochet? It's not a dissimilar technique, except I use a finger instead of a stick. So I stick my finger in and the loops go around it, and I go round and round through different holes in the ear or the tail and around my finger until that particular bit of thread runs out. I then tie off the end and I snip through the top of all of those loops, and that gives this effect. And although yes, it is time consuming, it is not the most time consuming way of making hair that I've used. And what you can do if you're doing it for someone who is more liable to muck about with it when it's complete, is you get each pair of hairs afterwards and you knot them together. If you want to be really, really neat about it, you then get a very fine crochet hook. So I think this was made with a 4mm hook, so maybe even a 2.5, and you pull that knot into the head. Okay, and that will completely secure it. So that is more time consuming, but it will give you a toy that has a better chance of surviving play. So there's a couple more things that if you want to make this toy would be handy to know. One of them is that when you're stuffing the face, is important, and I've made a video about stuffing toys before, but it's important to remember that we don't just shove a big load of stuffing in. We do little bits at a time. It allows it to spread out, but it means that extremities like this nose here also get filled. You don't, on this pattern, want any empty spaces there, so you fill that up. The other one is to do with the feet. Now, the feet are essentially little, look like a vase shape. They're little balls with a sort of smaller entry point. And what you can do there is either you can do the bulk of the stuffing before you do the decrease, or you can stuff when they're finished, which is what I did, but you just use the end of a crochet hook or something else that's similarly shaped to push that stuffing all the way down in there. And these want to be filled up to the end. Now, if you're not familiar with making toys, it is useful to note that when we're stuffing our toys, although we want them to be full of stuffing, we don't want them to be overfull. If you overfull, it doesn't just distort the shape, but it actually pulls the stitches. And what you end up is a situation where you can actually see the white stuffing through your toy. Now, another way of stuffing your toys is just by using yarn scraps. And this project created an insane amount of yarn scraps. Now I have a bag of yarn scraps. I'm going to show you. This is my bag of yarn scraps, and it's normally quite empty. It is now really full of yarn scraps, and I use this to supplement toy stuffing. Not only is it a great way to save money, but you know, it provides completely soft, appropriately shaped material to stuff inside. The only thing that I would say is try to use scraps of yarn that are a paler colour than the actual body of the toy, just in case your tension's a bit loose or you do overstuff slightly. You don't want to see that darker or brighter colour shining through. So this little dude will be hanging around here for a bit until I next see the person that it's going to, and then he will be off to his new home. Now, I have talked in the past about the fact that I don't do commissions, and there are a lot of reasons for that. But what I do is when people chat to me or leave comments beneath, I do often run with ideas, and of course I make stuff for friends and family and for me. But yeah, so this is not a commission. No one has paid me for this. This is very much a gift that is then going to be a gift to somebody else, and I'm delighted to do it because the person that I'm doing it for, or people in fact, are super wonderful, and that's, you know, one of the many joys of crochet. Anyway, I digress. I'd love to hear what you think of this. Do pop me a comment down underneath, or give the video a like if you like it. It's really useful feedback for me. I don't necessarily have a good gauge on what other people like, because on the whole, some of my immediate family aside, people just say they like everything, and no one likes everything in real life. So honest opinions, tell me you love it if you love it, and it would be so useful to me because it slightly influences what I'm going to make next. Am I going to make next? I've got too many ideas. They cram into my head and then fall out again. But yeah, Crochet Pekingese dog. I really hope you like it. I'm so excited to show it to you. It's something quite different for me and a bit of fun. So free pattern up on the Lucy Kate Crochet website for you to follow. Any questions about that, drop them in the comments here. I do see the comments on the website, but it takes me longer to answer them, whereas these ping up on my phone. So yeah, drop me a message if you've got any questions, and happy crocheting.